Welcome to Strengthen the Numbers. My name is Mitan Patel, analyst, accountant, and aspiring finance leader, and it is my ambition to bring you the leaders in business and finance to the table, distilling their careers, experiences, and insights into actions that you can take to your clients, customers, and communities to become their value creator and ultimate trusted advisor. And with that, let's move on to the show. Welcome everyone. You might be wondering why you're not hearing Andrew's voice at this point, and that is because he's given me this really exciting opportunity to be interviewing him. In this podcast, I explore Andrew's background, some of his career highlights, and his thoughts on how everyone can succeed in their career. Reflecting on this episode, I'm continually struck by one thing, and that is Andrew's emphasis on collaboration and helping others in each of the answers he gives. Anyone that knows Andrews will be aware of his almost resolute adherence to the idea that a rising tide lifts all boats. And the reason that it strikes me is because Andrew is incredibly academically gifted, has had firsts, has done very well in his MBA, but still attributes his success to the idea of helping others and how others have helped him on that successful journey. And I can see it firsthand. I'm incredibly humbled by Andrew giving me this opportunity, allowing me to use the SITN platform, and giving me the advice and guidance on how to do the podcast. So I think this episode will have something for everyone, and let's just get straight to the show. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mitan. Nice to be on the other side of the table.
Yeah, indeed. Look, what really excites me about this podcast is learning more about you, your experiences, your career journey. So could you tell listeners more about your background and your career to date?
Yeah, so I left school at 18. I did try university out for a few weeks. I did mathematical physics, didn't quite like it, but I've always loved numbers and I've always loved trying to explain things via the numbers. I think that's where I was very much drawn to physics. And then I needed a few bob quickly, so I took a job in sales in a wine store. And between one thing or another, I ended up doing a field sales role after that, selling Pepsi. And I did that for a year. And then my mother had finally nagged me enough that I actually went back to university. And I sort of had a sense that I wanted to do something in business. So I went to university in Ireland and then did a few years there. But whilst I was at university, I sort of fell in love a bit with more the accounting and finance side of things. And then I started doing work in the summers, coming back to London, doing work in the summers in various accounts teams and various accounts roles. And on my first assignment as a contractor, I ended up working with a director who was SEMA qualified, and he helped me sort of go through the application process and whatever. And it just so happened that I had loads of spare time on my hands when I was at university. So I did all my SEMA exams pretty much by the time I graduated. So that was back in the day where you had to sit 17 exams. And I remember one day there was a conflict between my university exams and SEMA exams. So in fairness to the university, they let me come in at 6 o'clock and do 3 hours of papers. And then I did 3 hours of SEMA, then another 3 hours of SEMA. And then I got a taxi and I wasn't allowed to phone or speak to anyone. So they sent someone up to the university to collect me in a taxi, bring me back down and do 3 hours more of exam papers. And I think I slept for about an hour the night before that that day of exams. So there was a lot on my plate, but I felt I learned loads and allowed me then to take on more senior roles during my summers and obviously earn a bit more money and bring that back and have even a more of a blast when I was at university.
Yep.
That was my introduction to accounting. And then when I finished university, I thought I'd have a go in practice. And that turned out to be quite good in terms of I learned loads of skills around auditing, but I wasn't really, for me, I felt I could take the audit only so far and then I could see opportunities to improve and create more value. But it just never felt like that that there was any sort of platform or pathway to do that within auditing. And actually that's been a similar sort of thought of some of our previous guest mentors on the show. So it wasn't a strange thing to feel like that. So I exited, and because I was almost fully qualified SEMA at the time, I got a very good role in industry, working with Burger King, and I really loved that role. Had a few other ones. I suppose as I progressed up, got more senior in finance and accounting, I became a line manager. And it was only then that I realized I really sucked at being a line manager. And yeah, and this was really frustrating me because I was a very successful field salesperson. I always hit my targets, and not only that, I was able to help my team hit their targets, and that really forced me to examine that. I think I just got a bit too caught up on the old technical side of accounting and finance, and I had to rediscover my people skills. And it's not easy because I suppose deep down I am an introvert. I love my own space. I love my own time. I just love thinking through problems. I'd get as much fun, I suppose, doing programming or a bit of coding, or just reading articles on finance or the latest developments just on my own rather than spending time with people. But ultimately, business is about people, and it's about bringing people on a journey and an experience. And that's where I started to rediscover those skills as a line manager and started working more on those side of things. And I guess that really helped me then be quite successful in setting up my own accountancy company, my own consulting practice, and did that for a number of years. And that meant a lot of traveling. I used to commute quite long distances, didn't see much of the family, and I said that had to change. So there was an opportunity that came up at a very fortunate time. I was sort of standing at an airport waiting to fly out, and it was very foggy. And then off in the distance, I saw a fire, but when the fog lifted, there was actually a plane crash. So, so I said, I got to stop traveling. I'd like to see my kids as they grow up. So enough of that. So I managed to get home and went online, and then there was a job, maternity cover contract at a multinational in Cork in Ireland where my family were based. So I applied for it that week. I got through the first round interview. They had the second interview the following day, and then offered me the job on the third day. So yeah, so it was pretty cool. As it was like it was meant to be. And then I suppose that was the last time I ever applied for a job. Ever since, I've managed to fall into really great roles, had really great people around me, and deliver loads and loads of value for the business. And yeah, like I enjoy working at Dell. It's just one of the many things I do. But I think there was a very good important point when it comes to career that one of our previous podcast guest mentors, Paul Sweeney, said is, what's your extra? And I feel like it's always important to do that little bit more. So, not only that we develop ourselves, but you're always adding just that little bit more value to everyone else around you, giving them a really good experience. And then it's like raising all ships at the same time.
Absolutely. And that last comment resonates with me very powerfully. And it did so when I first met you. You emphasized the importance of helping others. I mean, when in your career journey did you realize that was important?
Yeah, great question, Mitan. I mean, like, if I look back on my career, I suppose it was when I took on my first proper management role, and I actually had to step outside the finance to do that. I actually had to, I don't really regard my role in sales as a proper line manager. It's sort of quite remotely done. But when you had a team of 15 people, I was very lucky because my first hire was an MBA graduate. He was a previous IT manager himself. And outside of work, afterwards, we developed a very strong friendship. But at the time, he helped me, see how much I sucked as a line manager. And it really felt that up until then in my career, I was able to just do everything myself. Even when I was at university, I was able to get the projects done pretty much myself. And I was always A grade. I mean, I left school with the highest A levels in the school. I got a first class honors every year at university. So I did do, I'm very strong academically. I always had great belief in my own ability. But if you're only focused on yourself and doing the work yourself, you're never really growing with others. And actually, there's more to life than just trying to do everything yourself. And I realized that if I was ever to be successful or have my work given credit for, or even do anything meaningful, it was always going to have to be with other people. So the 2 years I spent in that line management position allowed me to make a bucket load of mistakes on how to manage people, and I learned a few things that seemed to work along the way. And as part of that process, I grew, and the people around me grew, because when they were growing, I was growing, and it just seemed to be a bit of a positive snowball. And that's when I discovered that it was important to come out from behind a desk, work with people, understand their haves and wants. And it was just applying a lot of stuff that I'd learned from sales. But sometimes in finance, we can just get a bit lost. We can get caught behind our desks looking at computer screens. And really, there's two sides to it. It's taking all that great technical knowledge that we learn and can offer our organizations. And it's not just our organizations, because prosperous business leads to prosperous societies, in the way that businesses pay taxes, the way that our economies are run on numbers in terms of the financials, but also giving people jobs, employment opportunities to make a difference. They sort of go hand in hand, and we've got some great technical skill sets to facilitate a prosperous world around us. So yeah, there's a bit more to finance and accounting than simply sitting at a desk. We can do a lot more with it.
Absolutely, and I am struck that as finance professionals, we have a very good technical knowledge base and a very privileged strategic overview of the business area that we operate in, and access to some particularly senior stakeholders. But none of that is of any use if we can't work with the stakeholders to help deliver and drive commercial decision making. I wondered, from your perspective, extremely good academics, how much that actually helped you in terms of this other side of finance, in terms of driving those decisions.
Yeah, it's funny. I suppose I fell out a bit of love with academia once I got really sort of stuck in more the people side of things, and nothing. I didn't find anything in my technical accounting training that really helped with that, or even to some degree my university. So it was only, I actually did an MBA, and I was questioning the value of it. No, in fairness, it all came together on the last module, which was strategic management. And what that was really about was pulling together all the knowledge out there. And it doesn't have to be academic knowledge. It could be something you've read in a book, or something someone said, or something you see in nature as well. In terms of that, I love sharing stories. I mean, one of my favorite ones is about the bees and the flowers, and how they need each other to be mutually successful and create those win-wins in society. The bees need the pollen, the nectar, and the pollen to turn into nectar, so that they can go and feed their own societies. And then the flowers need the bees to go and cross-pollinate, so they can grow their DNA footprint and for their species to be successful. So I love sort of taking those. But the reason why that strategic management was useful is because we can deconstruct things and assimilate them then into models that tend to be quite repeatable. And that's a great thing in finance. You said, Mitan, that we've got this great strategic view. We have a lot of strengths in the numbers. There's a lot of assets out there. And one of them is our access to data. Two is like our access to decision makers. And we do have that broad visibility across the organization, the value chain, to be able to go make a difference. We've this technical training as well, which is another asset that we can turn such insights into financial outcomes to figure out where organizations could be getting bigger bangs for their buck, or the best returns on investment. So there's a lot there in terms of what we can do with insights and models. And that's where I suppose the academic side of things has helped, is that I've got a lot of reference points that then I then started putting into models that I've since shared with other people that just tend to work and are repeatable over time. And I'm actually just thinking about this the other day. So I put together a quick 5-minute Monday memo on the topic of mental models and the importance of them. And actually the thing is with them, you got to continuously test them and refine them and make them better. And again, it's just great to have them in our toolkit. So, academia does have a purpose in terms of helping us give some data points or some foundations to develop those models. But at the end of the day, the model's only worth as much as we've gone and applied it and tested out to see if what's worked, what hasn't, where it can be better. And that's part of the fun. Actually, when I work on anything, I turn it into a game to figure out how much I actually don't know. and how ignorant I am of my own ignorance. It's one of those saying that's already stuck with me is Frederick Hayek, is, I'm ignorant of my own ignorance type of thing, or I don't know what I don't know. So I'm always questioning, what it is that I don't know. And what is it I don't know about this scenario? And then it helps me figure out what's the gap in my knowledge, or the gap in the knowledge that exists if it's in a meeting with other people. And I'm not frightened to be wrong as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Courage is a really important characteristic and attribute for a finance professional who needs to challenge the business to make the right strategic commercial decisions. Segueing a little bit, in terms of your life, what's exciting you at the moment? I mean, I understand that you're working on an app at the moment.
Yeah, it's a free app, and it's going to be able to help you create more value in your organizations, and who doesn't want that? And it's taken all the hours of interviews that I've had with guest mentors. If you think about that, the guest mentors we bring on the show probably have about 15, 25, some have 35, 40 years worth of experience, and interviewed nearly 50 of them now. And you add all that together, there's thousands of years worth of experience gone into making that app. Not just the hours I've put in, but thousands of years worth of experience. I mean, what a way to give yourself, or accelerate or kickstart your career, or at least give you signal as to your value creation potential. And then assess yourself over the coming months. Have you been improving on that or not? And then also in the longer run, I'll figure out a way of connecting people if that's what people want. Got to be mindful of privacy of people's data and so on, which is why I've structured two databases, one for names and one for people's data, to keep them separate. But it's a way to connect people, so that if someone wants to develop in a particular area, there's someone else in the profession that can mentor them and help them stronger. And there may be a reverse mentoring opportunity where both boats can raise at the same time. And that's, I've already touched on the assets in our conversation earlier. And funny enough, the app itself spells assets. And it's about doing the right things to enhance our assets. Yeah, and that's that again, it's a free app, and it's just pulling together the experience that already exists in our profession. Some of my own one, but again, I don't know all the answers. That's why I have to go and talk to all these people. And you learn some great things. And it's just great to be able to take some of the skills I've learned over the years and turn it into an app that people can access 24/7. Yeah, I just can't wait to see how it works for our profession, and what level we can take it to in terms of making a real difference for everyone.
Absolutely. What I'm really, really enjoying about the show, Andrew, is this underlying principle which we keep coming back to, which is helping others, helping the profession, making a difference. And, when I think about it, this show is a perfect example of it, right? The SITN show. Bring all these people on, learn from them, their experiences, what to do, what not to do, and how they've made a difference, and how you could potentially make a difference. And I'd be actually really interested on that note to understand, what was your thought process behind starting this show in the first place?
Yeah, I suppose I never really said why I sort of did the show, and I guess, I feel like I have to pay back, because I was struggling in my career. I was going absolutely nowhere, and this guy saw this and he said, "Look, we should go have a coffee sometime." And we met. It was Junction 4 of the M40 motorway in England near High Wycombe. He sat down at the Holiday Inn lobby. Some listeners might have even been there before, and he gave me a tool that's really helped my career, and I've achieved pretty much everything I set out to. And I don't want to be a CFO or, I suppose, a CEO of a multinational, but I just want to be a very good, solid finance professional, and create a good experience for others that I encounter along the way. And I've been able to deliver loads and loads of value that way, and I've received so much more value in return. So, another thought I'd maybe like to share is, it's important to give to others, not with an expectation to get, but what tends to happen is when you give back more of your time or invest in other people, you tend to get an awful lot more back in return, particularly in the way of meaningful experiences. And yes, there's some nice commercial things that tend to happen off the back of that as well. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I've done very well in my career. And, I think that's why I would encourage others. It's not always about the money. There's a lot more to life than money, and we work with money all the time. But it's important just to give, and then not with the expectation in mind, but just to give your time, or just give a bit of yourself to others, the community. It doesn't even have to be finance, and you will receive so much more back just from investing in others. And again, being a bit more human in these times of digital finance or technology or cognitive computing, it's just makes it much more fun, rewarding, and ultimately your careers in finance be much more successful.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I find myself here podcasting with you, Andrew. The quality of the speakers you've had, what has been absolutely immense, and I've learnt an immeasurable amount from those speakers and their experiences. It's just been great. What on that note, actually, of success and learning, are there any other resources that you've benefited from, or that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, well, look, I'm an avid reader, and I've always got a flavor of the month. But there's some books I keep coming back to, and I'll just share one. And it's probably the one I read most often. It is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I know it was probably written nearly 100 years ago now, but it's just timeless advice in there. And if I just pull one, I suppose, in terms of best bit of advice, because I do ask that question on the podcast, but this is actually the best bit of advice I could ever give, is actually from this book. And it's the first: seek to understand, then seek to be understood. And that's a lot of what we do in finance. It's actually, we obviously want our viewpoint to be understood, but the most effective way to do that is actually take a genuine interest in other people and invest the time to seek to understand what it is that they want, what it is they think they have, because the difference between haves and wants gives us gaps that if we close the gap between the have and the want, we can go and actually add some value to people. So, I've always found that advice was at the cornerstone of what I success in terms of connecting with people and adding value for people over my career. And, I might have mentioned earlier my career, like I sucked at management. It was sort of that this was one of the resources I found that helped me be a better manager, person, partner to my wife, father to my kids, and that type of thing. It came along at the right time when I needed it in my life. And yeah, I still use it very regularly to look back on it and find things in myself that I hadn't seen before when I read it. So I highly recommend that if people are looking to improve on the people side or the social intelligence side of things of their work. And FP&A trends.com by Larissa Melnichuk. She's one of our previous guest mentors. There's loads of great contributors there from many different angles of FP&A in particular, but there's really good content for all finance professionals in there, because I think FP&A is a very much a growing and important area in finance, and its importance will only grow as the thirst for analysis, particularly financial analysis and analytics of a business, will grow and grow and grow, because the data is growing and growing, and organizations, boards, and so on will continue to need to make decisions, and FP&A has a lot of influence. And again, I think that's why it's going to continue growing, because it's got the inside influence impact. It's got all three of those going on. And so I highly recommend that. And also business partnering. I think it's key that we all have solid business partnering skills. So the Business Partnering Institute, which Anders Lou Limberg is one of the founding members of, is also a very good resource. And also connecting with those like Chris Argent, Lance Rubin, Brad Eisenhuth, who does the Outperformer. Again, great initiative out there. There's so many good resources for finance and accounting professionals that were never there back in the day. And also I'm a SEMA member, so I have to plug SEMAglobal.com or any of the AICPA resources that SEMA have partnered with as well. I find the white papers very enlightening. And again, we've got some guests on the show from SEMA in the past and SEMA qualified members that, again, some great insights. Oh yeah, and I'd be remiss of me if I didn't mention the book I wrote, The Audacious Finance Partner. Plug that to get maybe a few extra sales, although it's been selling well. So yeah, actually, funny enough, that's what funds the website, the SITNshow.com website, and pays for the server fees and all that. So again, it's just reinvesting it back back in our community. So again, highly recommend people check that one out. But also the SITNshow.com, where it's got the archive of all our podcasts, SoundCloud, and subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube, where I do a short Monday memo every Monday for about 5, 6, 7 minutes, just giving some insights into an area of finance and accounting that we can practically do and add value on.
Brilliant. And how do our listeners get in touch with you, Andrew?
Yeah, like LinkedIn is definitely the best place to do that. So, there's not many Andrew Codds in the world, and there's not many that'll be a founder and producer of a podcast. So, yeah, definitely check us out, Andrew Codd. I think that's the link on LinkedIn. And take emails in the SITN Show website account. So if you email me at andrew@sitnshow.com, I do my best to get back to you within 24 hours when it hits that account. So please email me there, and I will get back to you if there's any questions, concerns, or anything you feel I can help with.
Well, look, Andrew, thank you ever so much for this and your time. From me personally as well, for this opportunity to interview you. I've learned an incredible amount. I've no doubt that our listeners will too. And thank you for being on the SITN show.
Yeah, pleasure, Mitan. And look, what I would just sort of leave people, thinking about, like a parting thought, is that, look, whatever stage of your career you're at in finance and accounting, there's always help around you. If you've just got, that just, a little bit of faith in other people, that, most people out there are good and willing to help. And again, I'm always encouraging people. It's like, I find it tough now to make time to mentor people, because, I do get a lot of requests for that. And I think that's another reason for the Strength in the Numbers show. So if you see people that could do with your help, or, you feel that some people can help you, reach out and connect with people, and actually, trying to understand where they're coming from and see where, you could perhaps help them, or ask them where they could help you, or could they recommend someone to help you. There's a lot to be said for stepping outside of our own numbers sometimes in the details and trying to find ways to connect with people. And again, if we keep working together, then we're only just going to build more opportunities for everyone in our profession. And that's one of the great things I think that this digital age is bringing us. I think it's forcing us to be a bit more human, to connect with each other a bit more. And ultimately, that will raise all of our ships for not just our profession and ourselves, but also for the businesses we serve. And remember, those businesses operate in the communities we live in as well. So it's good for us, and it's good for society. And that's the great thing about being in finance. We can really, really make a meaningful difference to everyone around us, our friends, family, and the people we work with. So I'd love to leave that with a parting thought. And I really appreciate the questions, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to be on the other side of the table for a change.
So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you'd like to know more about our guests today, their bio, and follow up on the resources mentioned during the show, you can find all the relevant links and more at sitnshow.com. There you'll also be able to get access to earlier shows, read the latest blogs. There's also an opportunity to subscribe to our newsletter, which will give you heads up as to when the next show is coming out, latest events, news, and anything that's going to be relevant to help you have a fun, rewarding, and successful career in finance and accounting. And just before you go, we really appreciate your feedback. If there's something we can do better on the show, something that's not working, or something you'd like to see, even a guest you'd like for us to invite onto the show, someone who you think might be able to benefit you more and also the rest of our community, please let me know. You can email me. I'm at andrew@sitnshow.com, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just drop me a message so I know how you found me, and we can connect. And really, it's our community that'll make the show. If we keep engaging and driving each other on, we'll keep on building our strength in the numbers. When all is said and done, if we can do the numbers better and finance better, we'll create more opportunities for ourselves, our friends, our families, our communities, and our businesses. So until next time, have a good rest of the week, take care, and let's keep building our strength in the numbers.